Well, I've gone and added yet another new toy to my 74 Super Beetle. As a lot of people know already, I love my toy gadgets in my cars. Any little gizmos I can add that are going to help modernise a 37-year-old classic car and also make it a bit more practical to use as a regular driver. I'll generally add if they're not over the top or they're a safety item. Things like just more visible, safer indicators and things that are just standard on modern cars that make life easier, like remote keyless entry or central locking. There's always a godsend when you've got bags full of groceries and it's raining. Nice modern seating that's comfortable and adjustable, unlike Volkswagen back breakers. I've already shown in other videos crap like the air conditioning and variable delay intermittent wipers. I used to have electric power windows in this car, but I removed them when I retinted the windows. Wiring's a bit chaotic. And the others are just small little things like extra gauges, better stereo system. You've got to have good tunes in a car. Things like LED lighting around the place. But one thing that's been on the wish list for a long time was electronic Speedo, for a number of reasons, but the old cable mechanical Speedos have a lot of drawbacks, but the main reason is after nearly 40 years they are never accurate. But one of the biggest problems is being mechanically driven off the front wheels, they can't compensate for changes in tyre size, which poses a big problem as my choice of rims is somewhat different to Volkswagen's original tyre sizing. So I've always had a Speedo that reads 5 kilometers too fast, and there ain't jack I can do about it, which was the main reason I wanted a electronic Speedo, as they work off a speed sensor with digital pulses. They can be recalibrated to any tyre size, but another problem that creates is removing the existing VW Speedo, which has internal fuel gauge, means you then need an extra fuel gauge as well, and I am rapidly running out of room for extra stuff in this car. So that's where this little gizmo up here comes into it. It is a head-up Speedo display. So for those that don't know what that is, basically it converts your speed into a digital image and then projects it up onto the windscreen, which is what that square of tinting is for. It's been fitted to various cars over the years, as it is a valuable safety item, as you're only looking just there to view your speed instead of all the way down at the Speedo. You're taking your eyes off the road for a lot less time. But this one also has other purposes. It's also a speed alert. Now, having a quiet modern Subaru engine in this car means it's very easy to speed and not realise it. And many speed alerts are annoying as hell, and I hate that. This one is very adjustable and it is not annoying in the slightest. It's got two settings. It's got a pre-warning and then an overspeed warning. So basically what it does is you set the first step for the speed you want, as I do a lot of motorway driving, it's set for 105 kilometers an hour, and all it does at that speed is beeps softly twice and just brings up a little orange light. Then the second speed is set at 115 kilometers an hour, and it beeps a bit more loudly and brings up a red light, but won't continue beeping. Many speed alerts will not shut up until you get back to the speed, below the speed they're set at, and that's annoying as shit when you're doing an overtaking manoeuvre. The last thing you want when you're concentrating is something beeping its nuts off. And the other thing it does is it's also a voltmeter. It just reads the battery voltage when you first turn your ignition on. So that's what it is, and that's what it does. Now, to fit into an old classic car like this, obviously I needed a speed sensor, but fortunately I already had one because of my Subaru engine, and it works off the back wheels, not the front. So even when the front wheels aren't turning, as long as the back ones are, like doing a burnout for example, not that I endorse that, it'll still give a speed reading. And because it's digital and it works off wheel rotation, it's always accurate. It's calibrated off the GPS, so it's accurate down to the kilometre. There's a lot of different ways you can go about adding a speed sensor to an old car which doesn't have one. The easiest and most common method is an inline unit for the Speedo cable. They just screw into the back of the Speedo between the cable and the Speedo head, and they'll convert the Speedo cable rotating into an actual digital pulses. What I did is I have a proximity sensor on my rear axle, and it just there's 5 metal blades which rotate on my back wheel, so it senses those each wheel rotation. Very similar setup to what most aftermarket cruise control kits have. Seems to be a really well built unit, nice and responsive. The GPS tends to, when you can read it in the light, matches it to the identical kilometre. Good example of crappy mechanical Speedos jumping around. Luckily mine stops it once it gets a bit more speed up. Being off a digital sensor too means it also works in reverse. Highly useful for those reverse burnouts. It's probably pretty hard to read my GPS in this light, but because I've calibrated it to it, it agrees with it to the kilometre. So the speed alert, the first one goes off at 105, and it's just a couple of tame beeps. Like that, that's all it does. And that's just my stupid GPS going off. And the second one goes off at 115. That's all it does. So it's not crapping on to me 'cause I'm speeding. So you get used to the first one. It's not too annoying. But does let you know you're speeding. Does the stupid GPS. So yeah, that's about the gist of it. The other thing it also does is it auto dims at night. It's a bit brighter through the day, so you can read it in bright light. Then dims so it doesn't glare at you through the day. And it only cost me about 65 bucks or something. So money well spent.